Okay, mankind. I'm here today to answer the question of why do I believe in Jesus Christ? And as I thought about it, I know I said before in the little short video that I would include a great deal of my testimony, but as I thought about that, that will still make this so long. So I'm going to try to include little snippets to keep. I have to keep these videos condensed. Like, I know the attention span of people, and I need you to learn. And so if it's super long, I mean, some people can, and it could be interesting and you will hang in there, but I know everybody's different. So for those who just need little short nuggets for short periods of time, I got to do it for y'all. So, and I don't prepare. That was a big thing for me because my habit is preparation. And so to come and just press play and say, okay, I'm going to speak on this particular thing, that's like just crazy, but we're going to do this. Okay. So why do I believe in Jesus Christ? When I first think back when I was a kid, okay, and my mom, it was less than 10. I remember starting to go to church, and it was different types of churches, different styles. You had that like Baptist type. I had that, and then I had like and I don't want to bring race into it, but y'all excuse me, and please don't be offended if I do. I just want to really paint the picture for you. I remember a time that we went to a church where it was more white people, and then there was it was a slowed down, smooth, calm type of style. But it was intriguing even there. And everywhere, every type that I encountered, it was intriguing. And immediately when the thought and the idea of Jesus Christ being, God coming in the flesh, and actually I didn't understand that or learn that. So a ways down, it was just pretty much Jesus is God's son, and he came and he died on the cross for our sins, and he rose on the third day. It was just like when I heard it as a kid, and it's similar to what my kids said, it's just something that they just know it's real. And it's something about in a kid and your kid innocence and your kid level of faith and belief and imagination. It's like, it's not so hard as to when you get older and you think you're so grown and you just kind of know everything, and you've gotten all this stuff that's come inside of you over the years, and it's peeled away your childhood faith and belief. And so when it was introduced to me as a child, it was just like an automatic thing. Like, I just gravitated and I just believed it to be true. Um, and I believed it to be true. And I held on to it, and it meant something to me. And even though, my mom would buy me different versions of the Bible to try to help me to understand as I read, and I just kept staying in that mindset. I just don't understand. I don't understand. But I still believed. And I just knew that this person that they were telling me about was real. Lo and behold, to me, like, that little faith, that little mustard seed of faith I had then is nothing compared to what I have now and the understanding that I have now. But it's something about when you're a child, it's just like you just believe it. I mean, just think about how, as parents, we feed to our children that Santa Claus is real and the tooth fairy and all of this, and we're really lying to our children, y'all. And that's really, and I mentioned this in my prayer time, that's really the beginning of where we create a problem between the parent-child relationship. We think we're giving them, something cool and fun and magical and something to believe in life, but it's really causing a divide in the parent-child trust relationship, because they're going to get older and they're going to find out the truth, and they're going to realize you told them something that was false, and so it's counted as lying. And in their mind, whether knowingly or unknowingly, like, it's caused a problem in that closeness of your relationship. And I believe that to be true to the fullest. But when it comes to Jesus Christ, it's the truth. I mean, whether you want to receive that now or not, it is what it is. And one day we'll all find out. But I tell you this, I don't want to take a chance and get on that other side. And it's what I'm telling you now. And you didn't believe, and you get there, and then there's hell to pay, so to speak, literally. So, okay, where am I going with this? Okay, so as a child, you just believe. So that's where I was then. Okay, so I get older and I'm in high school, and I'm still like I'm on the God train. I don't really understand when I read the Bible, but I'm going to church. I was raised in the church. As a lot of people I know, they say that they're raised in the church. I was one of those people raised in the church. Totally involved. The plays, the choir stuff, the drill team, the vacation Bible school. Like, I was there, I was in it. Um, but unfortunately, a great deal of the wrong that I learned, the sin and being exposed to things that I wouldn't have at home, was at church, in the youth group, at a youth camp, or from the other kids, because their parents weren't guarding them as much as my parents were, and maybe I was introducing something to them that my parents wasn't so guarding for. So we was just um influencing each other back and forth, and I was learning things about the world right at church. That's like the main place that I learned things. Yeah, I went to a public high school, and yes, when you go to school and public school and around all these different kids who have different backgrounds and different things that have happened to them, you are going to learn things and you're going to get influenced. But it's sad to say that most of the bad things, it was very well at church. So that I began to gradually change, and in my household. And I want to give a shout out to my mom. Like, I love you. Anything I say, please do not take it to offense or anything. It's for the learning and teaching of mankind. So I have to speak the truth and tell things as it was in my walk and my experience of where I am today. So in my household, and not just what was at church affected me staying grounded at home. My mom, at first, my dad, like, he was just at home. He wouldn't go to church, but eventually he began to go to church. I grew up in a two-parent household. And, okay, let me gather my thoughts. Okay, so grew up, and my mom, she tried her best to guard us. Like, there was no going spend the night at anybody's house. Like, too much happens spending the night at other people's houses. And I will say there were a couple times down the line as we got older, there was some compromise there. We couldn't just listen to any kind of music. Sometimes she would, cut, we had limitations, but then there were times where there was compromise. And for the sake of family getting together for holidays and stuff like that, certain music would come forth and different things like that. And me and my younger brother, my baby brother, shout out to him too. I love you very much. I know everybody probably don't always think that, because you might feel like I'm hard on you, but it's because I love you and I want us to all get better together. And I'm not going to say names just in case no one is comfortable with that. But so she tried, and there was compromise that would come, and we would have family parties and gatherings, and those family members had different things going on with them, and so we would be exposed to certain situations that we shouldn't have been exposed to. And there was compromise on the movies we watched and different things like that. We had older siblings, me and my younger brother. That's what I wanted to say. Like, one of my sisters is 10 years older than me. And the youngest one of those older siblings, she's 8 years older than me. And then it goes up from there. And so whatever music they were listening to, it kind of trickled down to the younger group. So if they had, I could tell you, let's see some examples. DMX. So somehow this album gets in, the house. And because I know we're supposed to be a house of God, me and my brother, we let our mom hear the last song on the album which he's like, DMX would like do like a prayer, and he would talk about God at the last song of the album. So that's what we would let her hear, and we would say, oh, listen to this, he's talking about God, like this must be a person of God. He's repping for God. But what song 1 through 14 is like totally demonic. And so we're listening to this, and so much is just coming into us, and gradually we're just changing and changing more and more, being pulled more into the world more and more, no matter how much my mom tried to pour into us and instill in us. And eventually the world we gravitated more to the world because we had those two options before us. And it wasn't just that. There's more to it. I watched so much hypocrisy in the church. Eventually when I grew up, okay, I'm 5'10", so I'm pretty tall, and I've been this way since some point in high school. And I got to a size where I was pretty much built like a grown woman, and very shapely and curvaceous. And, what we see now is like the thing that everybody wants, the small waist and the big behind, and all of, like, I had that as a young girl, as a teenager. And so it just, so much attention. So much so that when I first got into high school, I began to dress like a boy. And I always was kind of tomboyish. I would go outside and play, throw a football with my brother, play basketball, climbing, and just doing all kind of adventurous things. So I had that little tomboyishness in me, but not to the point of where I'm going to dress like a boy and I'm going to kind of like have the whole little boy persona. But because I was being so much being predatorized, I don't know if that's a word, but I would go to school and boys would just like touch on my behind, even when I'm sitting in my desk at class, and they like just have their hand under, while I sit down, their hand is in my seat just to like get a touch. And it was just like, it was not comfortable. It was not a comfortable place to be in when you're supposed to be in your environment where you're learning, in school. So what I began to do was to dress like a boy, like with the baggy jeans and the baggy shirts and the basketball shoes and stuff like that, and kind of give off this like I'm a gangster mentality almost. So in high school, they actually would call me like gangster nerd because I was like tough, but I was really smart. And this was the persona that I took on in order to try to protect myself. That's something that my family probably never knew. And they probably thought that it was all because I was being drawn into, and they told me one day that they were afraid that I was going to become a lesbian or whatever because of that. But the whole origin of me doing that was trying to protect myself and cover my body up. But aside from school, I was very involved in like singing in choirs and going to like music school for the summertime and stuff like that. And it was just like I had so many encounters of men of God who were supposed to be men of God who were coming on to me. I'm a young girl. They're grown men. I'm a young teenage girl, and they're like making comments and, just completely flirting and trying to see where they can take it. And I will not name names. That is not the purpose of this. This is for learning and not to condemn or out anybody. I pray that you all have gotten it together and representing the Lord correctly, but that was incorrect. And if there's anybody out there who's doing these type of things and you can't control your lust and control your eyes, I know it's not literal in the Bible when it says, if your eyes offend thee, pluck them out. You're not supposed to literally pluck them out, but we need to really gain better control of our members, meaning our body parts, our eyes and our hands and things like that, especially when we claim to represent God Almighty. People take it so lightly, and you don't realize how much that affects people's belief, because I'm one of those who it affect my belief. And although I continue to walk on in life and I would say, oh, I know God's real, I didn't feel the same way I felt before. I felt like the church was so full of hypocrisy, and that, yeah, we have this Bible, but I felt like, oh, it's written by man, so I'm sure, according to the men that I've experienced, the men of God, that were doing things inappropriately with a young teenage girl, or trying to do things inappropriate to a young teenage girl. I thought surely that Bible, those words have to be contaminated by man. Man cannot be trusted. So that's how I felt. I felt like I believed in God, but we couldn't trust the Bible. Okay. And that's where I was. And then, I graduated from high school and I went on to college and started. I was a science major, pre-med major in biological sciences. So I got all this science stuff coming into me. And that created a battle even more. So even more so, I was just like still saying I believed, but it was on my own terms that I wanted to believe. Okay. So we're going to have to fast forward some to when I met my husband. Okay. And things were crazy. That's a whole nother story. I'm not going to get into that. But things were so crazy. Like, he was like a madman. Like, and it was like the one thing that I could hold on to. Like, I knew that he loved me. And I knew that he loved the children, but it was just like, wow, like what has he been through? Because it's like, man, like it's rough dealing with this guy. And he was in the military dealing with the whole PTSD thing and prior marriage situations and trauma and childhood trauma. And, and you come into a relationship and you don't know all of that. And then this person is just a certain way and it's just like a shock. But you know that love is there, so you're just trying to hold on to it, and it's just crazy. But that's a whole nother story. So let me see, the end of 2007, my dad passed away, and that was rough for me. Okay. And following that time, one of the first things that happened after he passed away, one of my oldest sisters, I have 6 total sisters, and this is the second oldest of those sisters. She had me and the children to go to California with her. Okay, let me try to gather my thoughts. Okay, to come to California with her, and she was trying to basically get me away from my husband, which was my then boyfriend / fiance. Y'all know how we do, even though you probably didn't even have the whole ring, and all of a sudden we start saying fiance. But anyway, so she gets me going back, and that's where I was born, Los Angeles, California. So I go back there with her, and she's really trying to get me away from him because she's like, everybody in the family is convinced like this dude is crazy. Tanya, you got this crazy dude you got off the internet. That's for a later time. Oh my goodness. But so I go with her, and for whatever reason, she's like bringing me and the children to like a church, one church after another. And we're just like, the whole time we're literally just going to churches. And then there was another time she brought me to like this, I think it's called an iridologist, but this guy, he like looked closely into my eyes and he was telling me like all the stuff that I was going through and these health problems that were lying dormant in me. I don't know. It was crazy. I've never experienced anything like that, but this is what I experienced. And other than that, it was just like such a boring like life. Like I wasn't doing nothing. We were just going to churches. And but there's one particular church we went to, and there was a prophet there. And I could tell you, as I'm sitting in the seat, I could feel like I just knew he was going to say something to me. And the whole while I'm just like, please don't say something to me. Please don't say something to me. Oh, and he calls me out. And he told me 2 things. The first thing he said, where you came from, the place where you came from, there's a boy there that basically you shouldn't return to. He's going to get you involved in a lot of things that you shouldn't be involved in, that you're meant to be a woman of God. And the second thing he said was that the curse on your mother's side is broken. Now, y'all, when he said the curse on your mother's side is broken, it was like unseen chains or shackles was broken off of me. And I got up and took off down the side of the church, running back and forth. Like, it was crazy. It was almost like I had lost control of my body. And I remember growing up and I would see people in church and they would just be running around with such joy, just so happy in the Lord. And I could never understand it, but I would look at it and I would admire it. And I'm like, these people are literally having some type of special encounter, relationship with the Lord. And inwardly, I desired it. And all of a sudden, when this man tells me this particular thing, that this curse is broken off me from my mother's side of the family, I literally just took off running. And it was like just something just lifted off of me. It was just like the craziest experience. Um, and so I, came to myself. I sat back in my seat, and and the church service continued and finished. But I was concerned about the situation with my now husband because like that's the dad of my children. Like, I'm not just trying to like have a broken family like that, just off of somebody just telling me something like that. I'm like not even like a believer like that I'm just gonna just, oh, you're a prophet, and I'm just gonna go with it and totally shift my life because you told me that. So I walked up to the front and I was just like, you said that the boy from where I came from, I shouldn't return because I'll get involved into things that I shouldn't be involved in. Hold on, the kids. Okay, I'm just going to stop and make a part two to this because the kids are taking their precious time getting snacks and my husband just got home. So I'm going to have to pause for a moment, and that way this won't be too long. It's about 21 minutes, and then we'll just go into it with another part. Okay, this is all a part of me answering the question. I know it might seem like it's not, but it is. Alrighty.